Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Bhadram Karnebhihi Shrunuyama Devaah Bhadram Pashyema Akshabhiryajatraah Sthirairangaistushtuvaagumsastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitanyadayuh Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravah Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedah Swasti nastarksho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatirdadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's do the chant, the second Karika of Agama Prakaranam. Dakshina Akshimukhe Vishwaha Manasi Antastu Taijasaha Akashe cha Hridi Pragyaha Tridha Dehe Vyavasthitaha. So, in the Deha, in the body, all three experiences are done, are there. Tridha Dehe Vyavasthitaha. Vyavasthitaha means they are present, they are obtained in the body. All three kinds of our experiences. Vishwaha, Taijasaha and Pragyaha, as we saw before. So here, the new word, which is not there in the original mantra, is Deha. Deha. So here, in terms of understanding the identity between the individual and the total, some vichara, some thinking has to ensue through the word Deha. So this is what we are doing. So what we had said was that Ishvara can be found in your own body. So, we have this question, where do I search for Ishvara? How do I find it? How do I recognize it? So the instructions given in here is, find it in your own Deha, in the manner that we are suggesting. Okay. So this is what we saw in the last class. This is the meaning of the word Narayana. Narasya ayanam yasya. One who is sthiti, whose presence is in the living being itself. Nara here means one who is, and this is what the word Nara can be explained in so many different ways. In the Sutta Samhita, this is given, and perhaps we will do that one day. But for now, for the sake of simplicity, let's consider it as a human being. So the body of the human being is a good place for us to start our search for Ishvara. How is now being explained. So one interesting thing, Narayana, since we have that word, also means one that imparts to you karma phala by its very presence in you. So we may have a question. Karmani eva adhikaraste mahaphaleshu kadachana. In Gita also, that your job is to really act, and what the results will be, they have so many other factors. You don't have a control over it. So when we think about that, we said, well, where is that coming from? Where is the karma phala coming from? Where is the source of it? So here, the word Narayana means Narasya Ayanam, and elsewhere it is given, not in just in that meaning, that the karma phala is given to you right there and then as you perform an action. Right there. Nothing is postponed. It's not like we have to think about it, where the results will be, how it will be given. No. As soon as you do some action, then two kinds of phalam is given. One is called drishya phalam and one is adrishya phalam. So drishya phalam means that you undergo some sukha dukkha right there. Adrishya phalam means that it is stored for the future. At the right time it will be given to you as punya and papa. But in any case, the determination of the karma phala doesn't wait. It is given by Narayana instantly as we lead our life. And this is another interesting thing. Okay, now let us look at the way of finding Ishvara or Narayana in the body. How do I look for it? What do I do? This is a very important and very worthwhile thing to do. So Vedanta says the problem that the human being has is not thinking properly. Avicharita siddham dvaitam, vicharam na sahate. The whole thing to do is to think properly. Vichara. And we don't think properly with respect to the presence of Ishvara in our own body. So let us look to see, what do you mean by think properly? What do I need to do? Here it is said, listen. For any vastu, for any really worthwhile thing in the world, there is a relationship between the ownership of that vastu and the use of that vastu. Those are two different things. Ownership comes in, who is the total designer of that vastu. How was it done? Why was it done? What are the constituents of it? How it will behave? What are the laws governing it? These are all predetermined by the creator, the owner. Creator is the owner of the vastu. But then part of it could be that you are allowed the use of it for your own sake, even though you are not the owner. So now to answer the question about how to do vichara about the body. This is interesting, really just think about it. It is interesting, much more important than interesting actually, is the fact that really speaking, as we study Vedanta and try to gain the try to have some gain from the study, the biggest issue that we face is I cannot get rid of the feeling that I am the body-mind complex. It is the hardest thing to really do. Very obvious. You can talk all you like. You're not the body. You're just the observer of the body. Yeah, but then I don't. That's not my experience. Hey, this is my body. What are you talking about? How can I see that this is not my body? So here, the vichara of two individuals who are associated with a body should be done. Vichara of the two individuals regarding this body should be done as a way for you to possibly release yourself from the clutches of this thought that I am the body. You don't even say this is my body, even though you can easily say that this is my under circumstances you can say this is my body, this is my mind, and so on. Realistically, my feeling is I am the body, I am the mind. And the Shastra says, no, you are not, and I don't understand it. How come? So here, in this context, it is said, listen, do this. See who is the owner of the body and who is the tenant in the body. Do that vichara. If you do that vichara carefully and with conviction, then the way out of this clutches of the fact that I am the body is possible. Swami Akhandananda also gives, all the acharyas have said this in one form or the other. Swami Chinmananji also used to say this very well. But Swami Akhandananda, in this recent example that I was reading, did a very good job of saying that. He said, look, consider this body to be a hotel that you are staying in. And also another thing, I think we already went over this in the last class. Remember we were talking about that the body is a collection of bones and blood and muscles and all those kinds of things. So in Sanskrit language it is called sanghata. So sanghata means things that are put together in a very nice way. A car is a sanghata. Beautiful example of a sanghata. Really anything, cell phone, sanghata. Because you have so many different parts that are not just thrown at it, but very carefully arranged. Where does the wheels go? Where's the steering wheel? Where's the engine? What are the brakes? Seats and fuel. All of that is carefully done in the sanghata. Number one. Number two, the sanghata, any sanghata, is meant for somebody other than the sanghata itself. So, and there is a very famous saying in the Sanskrit language, says, Sanghatasya pararthatvat. Sanghatasya pararthatvam means, pararthatva means parasya arthaha, not swata arthaha. A car is not meant for itself. We know that. The car could be meant for the owner of the car who's selling it to you, is making some money. It's a business. That could be one reason. But really, the main reason for the car is for the use of an individual who's not a car. The body is such a sanghata. See, we have to think about these kinds of things. Not just we just say this is the, you're not the body, you're, but that doesn't really do anything for us because it flies against my experience. So the only thing that needs to be done is vichara. So here the vichara is thinking, analysis, understanding, is that the body is a very sophisticated sanghata. A car and cell phone and all these are nothing compared to the sophistication, the utility, the complexity, the enormous, I already said utility, as to compare with anything else. It's a sanghata, all put together. By who? By the creator, by the owner. Who's the owner? Narayana, Ishvara. So, this is interesting. We're all trying to see the identity between Jivatma and Paramatma. Right? We're all seeing that. And that is the subtlest endeavor, the subtlest, most difficult challenge that we have to face up to see the identity of the two kinds of, apparently two kinds of Atma, but the same Atma, Jivatma and Paramatma. So it's like a huge step, and I cannot climb up to that step. It is so subtle. Subtle means what? Subtle means that it's difficult to grasp. There is a kind of like a thinking that I have to do. I think Swami Maheshananji has pointed it out. He says, if you wanted to see something very subtle, like a microbe, the instruments have to be equally subtle. You cannot see the instrument with eyes. You cannot see the microbes with eyes. You have to raise the level of the subtlety of your instrument to the same level that you're trying to get at. So, to gain the identity between Jivatma and Paramatma is not easy because I have to make my mind in such a way that I can understand the subtlety of it. But in the meantime, you don't have to. Take some smaller steps. One of the smaller steps to take is to see not the Nirguna Atma, but to see Saguna Atma. Do you see Saguna Paramatma and Saguna Jivatma? Saguna Paramatma, Ishvara. Saguna Paramatma is Ishvara. And Saguna Jivatma is Jiva, you and I. So it is not necessary to all of a sudden see these identity between Jivatma and Paramatma. Don't struggle for it because you're not ready yet. But in the meantime, let's take some baby steps. And the baby step to take is to see that there are two people involved in the functioning of this body. Please understand that. And that's simpler. That's easy to grasp. Because we see that. We see that there is an owner of something. There's an owner of a hotel and a tenant of the hotel. And so Swami Akhandananda says, see that the body is given to you for a while to occupy, like a hotel room. That's what it is. Because it is given to you. You didn't make it. You, through your samskaras and vasanas, you wanted to stay in a particular kind of hotel. That one we know. Because if we have earned enough money and we have some money to spare, we can stay in a 5-star hotel. Like going to Hawaii, you can stay in some 2-star hotel, 3-star hotel, 4-star hotel, and 5-star hotel, all based on your samskaras, your karmas. But in any case, doesn't matter what kind of a hotel you're in, it is already provided for you. You earn the right to occupy it, and you occupy it for a little while. You cannot stay there if once your assets are exhausted. Like if you go to Hawaii, then on the Friday of that week that you are staying in, early in the morning before you even get up, they will send you a written bill underneath the door. And on that bill will be written, checkout time is 11 o'clock. And by the way, you owe us $3,578 plus tax. Then you said, oh my God, this is incredible. 11 o'clock, why can't I stay for a little bit longer time? We're just going on the beach or something. No. Maybe they can give you another half hour. This is our situation with life. This body is already given to us based on our previous karma. Either you have a very nice body or you have a leaky body with all kinds of medical problems. And you may not be able to live there for too long. And we occupy it as a tenant. We are supposed to occupy it as a tenant. But do you know, we don't know any better. I think this is me. You don't think about the Ishvara as the owner. You don't know how this hotel came about. You don't, of course, don't think about the fact that it was designed for a short time for you to stay and enjoy. And we complain, oh my gosh, my life is going. What is going to happen to me? Nobody cares about that. I don't know if there's another life or not. And can't I stay for it? All those kinds of problems occur only because of the false ownership rather than an understanding through vichara. My God. There are several things have to happen. One is that I am a tenant. I also have to see there is an owner of this body. And number 3, this whole Sanghata is meant for me. There is some purpose behind it. So now all of a sudden through your vichara, you are taking steps to disengage from the body. And even if you don't take some giant steps, just the fact that you understand this much makes you less reactive when things happen. When the body is starting to give problems, you feel that I think my time has come. I have to do something else. I have to live someplace else. And that should trigger an idea of who am I? Right now, I don't distinguish between the body and me. That I'm a tenant and this is a hotel. I don't do that vichara. I don't do that viveka. But that viveka should be done. I knew Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, if you go on a vacation and you have a 5-year-old son or a daughter, and they're just having so much fun in terms of the garden and the swings and all the playrooms and food and the beach and so on and so forth, they have no idea who's paying for it. They have no idea about how long we're going to stay. They're just totally involved in the enjoyment of the moment. They have no idea because they haven't really grown up to appreciate it. We don't expect a 5-year-old to ask a question. Who's paying for all this? I think if the 5-year-old does it, then there's something wrong. Is not expected to do that. Very similar to that is our spiritual status at this point. We don't ask any questions. I just feel that I'm the body. That's it. So this is an important step, even at the saguna level. Until I can do at the saguna level the viveka. So here in the saguna level, there is a connection between the owner and the tenant. And you don't need to see the owner. You should simply understand that such a beautiful hotel is owned by somebody. That you should understand. Where that owner is, we don't know. Beautiful example by Swami Akhandananda. It's a hotel. So anyway, this is the significance of using the word dehe vyavasthitaha. Dehe vyavasthitaha means that the presence of Ishvara, of Narayana is found right here. Okay, so this is one thing. Now, we look at, as we had promised, Dakshina Akshi Mukhe Vishwaha Manasi Antastu Taijasaha Akashe Cha Hridi Pragyaha Tridha Dehe Vyavastita. So let's look into those three. Also important to see this fact. All right. So the first thing mentioned is Vishwaha Dakshina Akshe Mukhe. Dakshina means the right side. Akshihi means the eye, the right eye. Mukhe means the right side is the dwaram, is the door to which is called Vishwa. So Mukham here means the entry point. The mouth, for example, is an entry point for eating and for talking. So in that sense, the word mukha is given. But the right eye is the dwaram. Dwaram here means the door, for which is called Vishwa. So here's what happens. We experience the outside world through our 5 sense organs. We see, we hear, we touch, we smell, etc. This is how we are, and very carefully designed, because you see something. By the way, this will come later on. I don't want to really do this, but very interesting thing is, we see something which is a singular thing in 5 different ways. Like, for example, a rose. So the rose is a composite flower, but the singularity of the flower is approached in 5 different ways. We see the color of the rose. We see the weight of the rose. We see the aroma of the rose, the touch of the rose. The presence of the rose is seen in 5 different ways. This will come later on, and this is where we see the Atma, which is a singular thing, in different ways. Anyway, that will come later on. But now we go back to Dakshinakshi Mukhe Vishwa. So we experience the outside things in 5 different ways. Out of the 5 different ways, the most definitive and the clearest is seeing things. They say seeing is believing. And that's true. That is really that's the idea behind it. You can say that, you can say, was the person, did you see our friend at lunchtime? So somebody can say, yeah, I think I saw him. I think he was there. How do you know? I kind of heard his voice. This is not as definitive. But if you say, I saw him, yeah, of course he was there. Then the person says, okay, now I believe you. So the eye is the most important door to the outside. And out of the 2 eyes that we all have, unless one of your eyes is injured, because that's how we see the 3-dimensional aspect of the world, the right eye is the stronger of the 2. So that's the reason for Dakshina Akshay Mukhaha. But what it really just means is that one way I experience the world is through the 5 sense organs. And here, the 3 aspects of the expression of the self, which is Adi Bhutam, Adi Daivam, and Adhyatmam. Adi Bhutam, Adi Daivam, and Adhyatmam. This is the pertaining to the three Shantis. Adibhutam means, as we studied the word Bhutam in just recently, and I think we'll do that again today, is the physical world, as we see. This is called Adibhutam. Then we have Adidaivam. Adidaivam means that there's an aspect to the world where the presence of the various devatas is also necessary for me to experience. Like the important one is the sun. Surya Devata, most important Devata. Because the Surya Devata, without Surya Devata, my eyes don't function. My eyes don't function in the total darkness. And my eyes don't function in minus 275 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat is necessary. Light is necessary. This is called Adi Daivam. So I don't think about it, but really speaking, my sense of experiencing things has to have Adibhutam. Some objects have to be there. And the presence of the various devatas that enable me to transact. And then comes Adhyatmam. And Adhyatmam means that the world outside has to be internalized before you can experience it. Isn't it? Like, for example, a picture of a camera. If a camera, unless the picture somehow enters the camera, there will be no experience of the camera. So what has to happen is that the light of the objects has to somehow enter the camera, which is called the internal. It's called the Adhyatmikam. Same thing here. The outside world has to be experienced by converting that into an internal experience. Realistically, what you are seeing is the internal experience. You're not seeing something directly. And that's how errors are made in the translation. You think you saw a thing, but you didn't. You didn't see exactly what it was. So this is the one way I experience the world outside. And here all the five sense Pancha Mahabhutas are active. All the Devatas are active. And if that happens, then I can now experience the picture outside and import it into my mind. So this is the job of Vishwa. Then I act as a Vishwa. Jagratavastha, as we have seen. Now comes the second aspect of my seeing. And that is Manasi antastu tejasa. Manasi antastu tejasa. What happens is that I can think about things and I can see things without importing it from outside. I can just either see things without closing my eyes, or even if I close my eyes to underscore it, I see a picture from memory. So if I ask you, please imagine you are sitting in the driver's seat of a car, driver's seat of the car, with your hand on the steering wheel, ready to turn the ignition on. You can do it. You have certain freedom to imagine the kind of car, big car, small car, American car, imported car. That freedom you don't have when you are looking as a Vishwa. But as a Taijasa, you still have a lot of detail. I ask you, suddenly see, you turn off the headlights and there's a starry light. There is a starry night. There's no other light outside. Just see it. You say, yep, I can see it. Now see that the light has been turned on. Headlights have been turned on. There's a car coming and they also have a headlight. You can see it. Where did you see all of this? From the internal light. In the first case of the Vishwa, yes, what you see is internal, but it is dependent on the external, isn't it? It is exactly dependent on the Vishayas that you see, and then you internalize it. Here, you can create the picture just internally. This is what is meant called Manasi Antasthasi. Manasi, what is it? Antas, Antaha. Manasi Antaha is inside the mind. Tu here means however, as a distinguishing one from Vishwa. It is called Taijasa. And this is a very important thing to see because in the waking state, I have these two kinds of experiences. An experience which is equal to the things that I see outside, and there's also an experience where I'm free to imagine without depending on the outside things. One is Vishwa, one is Taijasa. And the third one, which is Pragya, is also where I am seeing nothing. So this is an important thing. I am experiencing nothing. It doesn't mean that I am not experiencing. Your experience does not stop, but the specificity of what is outside or in your mind goes away. So I see nothing. This is why we have a memory of the deep sleep, which says, I saw nothing. Otherwise, you cannot even answer the question. Somebody says, how did you sleep? He said, I don't understand the question. What is sleep? What is nothingness? Or what nothing? But no, I don't have that kind of an answer. I'll say I slept. You can say I either slept well or not well, and I saw nothing, and I saw some dreams. So that in the seed form of where all of the manifestation has been removed from it in the seed form is called Pragya. And so what happens now is, so all these three states are there in the Jagrata Avastha. In the Swapna Avastha, it is totally Taijasa. There is no Vishwa. Vishwa gets dissolved. At least in Jagrata Avastha, the memory of the dream as a Taijasaha leaves a little bit of trace. We have difficulty in remembering dreams because it is not repeated. It just happens quickly and then it is gone. And so that's why it does not, because of the lack of repeatability. Why we remember the Jagrat Avastha is because of the repeatability. Same thing over and over and over again. But this is a quick brush stroke that comes and goes. But at least it is there. But the interesting thing to see is that the same phenomena which is there in the Jagrat Avastha as Taijasa is now exclusively there in the dream state. And the interesting thing is that at least in the waking state, you have a little bit of competition between the outside world and the inside thoughts. Like, for example, you're supposing you are just thinking about something. Suddenly there is a knock on the door. Now you have to open your eyes. And so you got interrupted. And it's mixed. In Swapnavastha, your faculties are purely Taijasa. And in the Taijasa, you see especially in the dream state, you have the whole thing. The whole thing meaning it is very real. You have lights. Eyes is very interesting. Your eyes are closed and there is sun. And where does the sun come from? It comes from the power of the Atma. In expressing the power of the Atma, you can create your own picture. It all happens. And in fact, eventually, as we will see, this is what happens in the Jagrat Avastha also. In the Jagrat Avastha, you have a complete picture that is hanging in front of you. And in fact, you have the whole world that appears to you. Well, here, this is, you remember we mentioned to you that there are some important principles that we must be very aware of and record it as a separate thing that we should look at it from time to time. That underlines the entire vichara. I will mention that to you. Here's a couple of more principles, which we will sketch out in detail later. But I want to just give it to you now to keep in mind as we go forward. Okay. So here to see these two principles, the two principles are Sat Swarupa and Chit Swarupa. So this is what these are the two things to keep in mind. All right, let's look at Sat Swarupa. So suppose you see an object outside as a Vishwa, like a cell phone. The question is, where is the cell phone located? Well, you can answer it by saying the cell phone is located in space at this place. So can you say that the space is the uh, it is the adhara, adhisthana. What would be the English word? Let me see. It is the basis. Space is the basis for the location of the cell phone or any other object for that matter. Yeah, it appears to be. Cell phone is location. It is located in space. Is that final? No. Because the question is, where is space located? Well, we can say that I have an idea of space. It's in my mind. Because we can see that if I don't have my mind itself, there's no space. Like in deep sleep. In deep sleep, there is no mind. There's no thoughts. There's no distinctions. It's all one big blob. And there's no akasha. So it's a good example that even the akasha, they say all pervasive, sarvagataha. It's not. Because it disappears in deep sleep, as far as I'm concerned. All looking at from one person's standpoint. You cannot say, well, there's other people who are awake, so they are seeing the space. No. Let's be consistent and see everything from one perspective. From that perspective, there is no space in the deep sleep. So clearly what it means is that the space is located in the mind. That's what Drik Drishya Viveka, the very first verse says. Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Drik. Then the eye is the Drishyam, mind is the Drik. The mind means here, just look at the space. I don't want to confuse that. We'll just go back to the original of the space. Where is the space? What is the basis of the of any object in the space? And where is the space? It is in the mind. Where is the mind? Well, you can take a sidestep and say it is in my buddhi. Buddhi meaning that recognition. I recognize, yes, this is, I can see the cell phone. I can see the space. And then there's another thing which is important. That I am the observer of the cell phone. And I'm the observer of the space, akasha. And I'm the observer of my mind. So now we have all these. How do you know you are the observer? Because my sense of observation is dependent on what I see. And what do I see? That seeing is based on the observer. So now there are all these things floating in my conscious entity, which is cell phone, akasha, mind, buddhi, and the pramata. Pramata means the one who has this thought that this is a cell phone. All these things are there. Where is the pramata? So the pramata is in me, the Sat Swarupa that does not change. I am Sat Swarupam. So realistically, remember I was talking about two important principles. So now we are nearing the first principle. The first principle is that the real adhisthana, the real basis of things that I see is I, the Sakshi, Sat Swarupa Sakshi. In the meantime, these are intermediaries. The space is an intermediary. The mind is an intermediary. The buddhi is an intermediary. The pramata is an intermediary. But they all shine. They all are present in me, the Sat Swarupa. This has to be seen. This is an important principle. We were going to visit this again and again. So the real adhisthana of my life's experiences is myself, the Sat Swarupa. So this is one important principle. Now let's go to the second important principle. How do I see things? Again, the cell phone. The cell phone is seen by a light, an external light. And the external light is the basis of visualizing things. It could be either the sun or the electricity which is also born by the sun working in the lamps. So it either the converted light or the original light of the sun. But in any case, I need the external light to visualize. Is that enough? No, I need the sense organs. I need my eyes. If the eyes are not there, I cannot see anything. Can the eyes see by themselves? No. They need the mind. They need the presence of the mind. Because if the mind is not there, even though my eyes are open, nothing registers. So the light of the mind, so to speak, a subtle mind, the subtle light of the mind has to be there. Is that enough? No. Because that also depends upon the light of the Atma, of the Sakshi. The Sakshi, the awareness, the Jnanam, Chit Swarupam. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, I think, it could have been either Chandogya or Brihadaranyaka, this analysis is given. What happens if where do you see? Well, we see it by the sun. What if the sun is not there? Or we can see it by the moon. If the moon is also not there, how do you see things? Did you see? Do you stop seeing? This is an interesting thing that, this is a very beautiful analysis that we will do sometimes. In the Brahma Sutra Adhyasa Bhashya, Swami Khandananda has made this point. So I'll bring that in just for the time being. He says, what do you need to be yourself? I mean, he says that in Hindi. I'm translating that in English. What do you need to be yourself? Do you need the sun? I need the sun to see. But if the sun is not there, I am still there. Do you need the eyes? I need the eyes to see. I need the arms to touch, my fingers to touch. But if my arms are cut off, I'm still there. So you do this analysis part by part, and to see whether you are still there if these other things disappear. The answer is yes. This is the true meaning of Swayam Siddha, Swayambhu, the name of Ishvara, Swayambhu, Swayam Bhavati. You don't need anything. You're self-existing. And in the second important principle that we are now talking about is Swayam Jyotihi. Not only Swayam Bhavati, but the Prakashatmakam is Swayam. You don't need anything from outside to see. Your consciousness is enough. Your own jnanam, self-contained. So we will visit this again later, and the basis of these two principles is the truth is what is the adhisthana for everything and what is the light for everything. These two are important principles that we will revisit later. Anyway, for this analysis, now we see that in the body itself, all these phenomena are occurring. You can see it right there. You are Vishwa, you are Taijasa, you are Pragya, and the method of seeing things is different. Where one in case it is loyal to the things that you see outside, the other one you can just imagine things on your own. The third one is where you don't see anything, Pragya, but they are all there. So here, one final thing, then we can wrap this aspect of it up, is that unless you see that the adhisthana and the jyoti is yourself, unless you see this, because the mistake we make is that our antakarana, our mind, is the seer and it is the adhisthana. And what we don't see is that even the antakarana is just an appliance. This analysis we will do maybe next time, some other time, what is called upadhi. So upadhi means the one which makes me different than what I am. The classical example is that of a crystal which is colorless and formless, so to speak, has some form, but for most purposes it is formless. But if you have a flower next to it, a red flower, then the crystal itself appears to be red. So the flower is the upadhi. So my mind, the antakarana, is an upadhi. And I am not yet smart enough to distinguish between my antakarana and myself. So until I learn to do that, because this is the principle of the dreaming. In dreaming, you become a dreamer, you become a dreamt, you become vishayas, you become antakarana, you become all these various things. But when you wake up, really, all those things dissolve into you, who is the final adhisthana and the final jyotihi. This through viveka we have to discover, and until we do, we are not free. So this is the progression of the explanation, all with respect to deha. All this so the vichara has to be done. I think in all of this, really the most important thing is that my vichara should begin to see that I am different from the body. I am a tenant living in the body. And then if I start to do that, I'm now going in the right direction. Otherwise, I'm frustrated because the Shastra says you are not the body, and I feel I'm the body, and I don't know how to do the vichara to break that log jam, so to speak. So that's the main message here given by Swami Akhandananda as we analyze the second Karika. And there's more to come, and we will look into that in the future. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So nice to see you all. Wonderful. Okay. I will hope to see you next week. Hari Om.